Hello and welcome to part 4 of the Introduction to Alibre Atom 3D video series. In the previous parts we've created two components, assembled them together in the assembly workspace, and now we're going to look at how to create a 2D drawing. So there's two ways to go about creating a 2D drawing. We can either start a 2D drawing from the Alibre Atom 3D home window, or we can open a part or assembly and then create the drawing from there. So that's the approach I'm going to take here. So I'm just going to go open and bring up the nut and bolt assembly we created in part 3. So now we're in the assembly workspace. To create a drawing of this, I just go to the file menu, new, and then drawing. And the reason to go this route is that this is going to create a drawing of the model that I've got open on the screen here. So I just find that sort of works for me, working on a part, and you can just jump straight into creating a drawing of it. Now that we've gone to that, we'll get the first thing that comes up is this new sheet properties dialog, and Alibre provides a set of predefined page borders and templates, and we have a series of different standards for the page format. So for this example I'm going to use a JIS standard, and then we can choose a size. So I'm going to use a JIS A4 landscape page border. Just the reason to go with JIS is that is set to use third angle projection by default, which I tend to find is the sort of easier method to follow when you're trying to read 2D drawings than sort of like the ISO templates, for example, default to first angle projection. So with that selected, I'm just going to go OK. Now we get this fill in text dialog. So this is just a series of predefined fields that are in the page border title block. We could fill these in now, however they're also available from within the drawing, so I tend to prefer to fill them in once I've actually sort of done the rest of the drawing. So I'm just going to go OK on that for now. And now we get the drawing workspace comes up in the background, so you can see the page border we've selected, and we get this standard views creation window come up. And the way this works, so we have a drop down of any open models at the top here. So we've just got the assembly open, so that's the only one. Configurations of exploded views aren't relevant to Atom 3D, so the main things to be aware of is this view here where it says front view. This is the view that is going to be used as the red square that says front on the view selection, and then the other squares around it are elevations or isometric projections from that view. So for example, this, if we click to select this isometric view top right there, we're going to see that the red front view is rotated down and to the left in that projection. You can also change this view using these arrows. So for example, if I want to start with an end on view as my sort of primary view, I could flip it round using the arrows. I can also rotate using these, but I'm happy with that to be the primary view. Some other details. So under more options, these are features that we can bring through on all selected views by default. You can also turn these on and off individually on the views themselves once you add them onto the page. So things like center marks, center lines, hidden lines, that sort of thing. So I will leave those options as they are. And the other thing to note is the view scale. So Alibre Atom 3D will select a view scale that will fit onto the page border you've selected. So in this case, because this is quite small assembly, it's suggesting to scale it up to 2:1. However, you do need to leave a bit of space to make room for annotations and things, so I'm just going to select that and change that back down to 1:1. So that's just going to be real, 1:1 scale, and then click OK. Now we get these blue outlines. So these are the bounding boxes for the 4 views we've selected, just to show you how big they are in relation to the page, and this just allows us to choose a paste to drop them onto the page. So I'm just going to sort of start on this sort of bottom left corner here and click, and now we can reposition the views to better user space. So first one I'm going to move is this isometric view, top right. So if I just left click on that once, you see we get this little arrow in the corner, so I can then move the mouse over there, left click and hold, and now I can drag that around and reposition it. So I'm just going to move that to the top right of the page there. Now we had center lines and center marks on as default for all views, so you can see they've come through. Probably don't want the center lines on for this isometric view, so if I just left click on the view, we get this pop-up of options we can change. So I'll just move the mouse over manage view, you don't have to click on it, and now we've got all the things we can turn on and off. So in the case I don't want centers, so I just need to click the little minus symbols or remove centers option, and that will get rid of those. I might also want to reposition the orthographic views. So if I left click on the one that was a front view and drag, you'll notice the other two views, the two elevations, move with it. If I click on one of the elevations and then try and move that, it will only move in line with its parent view. So I can just move those two out a bit to make a little bit more room. Another thing that might be quite interesting is to show hidden lines. So if I click on this view at the top, I can then go to manage view, and we've just got a checkbox there for hidden lines. That will then make those visible so we can sort of see the internals of the socket cap and so on. And now we can start looking at annotating these views. So for example, if I want to put a dimension on this view here, I first need to left click on the edge sort of into the view like that to select it. Then go on to annotations, click on the dimension tool, and for example I can put a dimension between the flats on the nut. Just pick two of those, and then we'll get the dimension. And so the dimensions have been set when we created the model, so all we're doing in the drawing environment is pulling those from the model to illustrate the sizes. Now if I'm happy with the dimensions on that view, I can click the green deactivate sketch, and now I could say add some dimensions to this view here. Just left click on it, click on the dimension button, and now we can start dropping some dimensions in. So for example, that's the 15mm offset we specified for the position of the nut in relation to the underside of the bolt head. I can put a dimension across the what would be the threaded area of the bolt there, and you see the software recognizes that that should be a diameter rather than a linear length. And I can also dimension to the hidden lines if we wanted to note the depth of the socket. So I can go through and pick any dimensions I need and add them to the views as I see fit. So I'm happy with that. I'll click deactivate sketch. Another useful thing to show on views would be to set. We can add additional information by using things like section views. So if I wanted to put a section through the nut and bolt on this view, for example, select the view, and then in the insert views we have this option for section. We click on that, and now we get a sketch, a sort of simplified sketch environment. So with line selected, all I need to do is draw a line that's going to go through the part, and this will be my section line, and then just press escape on the keyboard to stop drawing. Now, because this is a round part, it's quite important that this line goes through the center of the component, and we're actually given the origin point we modeled around on the view. So I can use the constraints. There's an option on the bottom right here called coincidental constraint. So if I select that, pick the line we're going to use to generate our section, and then click on the origin point for the view, that's going to center the section line on the view. And now all I need to do is click the create button, and I just need to select which side I'm going to create the section. So I'll just click below it and then click again to place the section, and that's now created a section AA. Again, like an elevation, that will move in line with the part. Now that I've created a few views, added some annotations, just to finish the drawing off, I probably need to put some information onto the title block. So to do that, just move the mouse over the edge of the title block, double click, and that will then bring up this text fields editor, so I can put in a date, put in the draftsman, and then give it a drawing number. and click OK, and you'll see that those are added to the title block. Once I'm happy with the drawing, I'll just go to the file and save, and then we can save this into the working folder where the parts and assembly were previously saved. So click save. Another thing useful thing to note about drawings is obviously you need to send these to people to get parts made. So you can go File, Export. We can put this out as a PDF if it's just a sort of reference drawing. However, if you're looking for a 2D view that can be manufactured against, then we also have options for AutoCAD files, either DWG or DXF, and exporting to that, you can then use those 2D drawings to directly drive things like CNC, flatbed routing tables, laser cutters, and lathes and whatnot. You can cut round profiles of parts from a 2D drawing. You can also export 3D data from part and assembly workspaces into step format, which is useful for CNC machining, and STL format, which is the standard used for 3D printing. Now I'm finished with the drawing. I'm just going to click on the cross top right, and that goes back to the assembly where we created the drawing from. So I'll also click the cross to close that, and we are back to the Alibre Atom 3D home window.